So, good morning, everyone. My name is Shazia Khan, and today's session that we'll be doing is Law for Accounting, assignment discussion session. So, before we go into the assignment discussion session, I'll give you a summary of what we've done in all the 4 learning outcomes. So, you've got a better idea of what needs to be done for your assignment. So, in learning outcome 1, we had to look at understanding the elements of law affecting commercial law. So we had to look at things like contract law. When we talk about contract law, how do you think, and Saman, I'm going to pose questions to you as well. How do you think contract law impacts on a business? How do you think that impacts on a business, having a valid contract?
Usually for employment, one of the contracts I think is very important for businesses to have a contract with their employees and also with their suppliers. So
it's really important that the contract you have has to, be a valid contract.
Yes.
Because, there are different elements of a contract, and in learning outcome 1, we looked at the elements, things like, offer, acceptance, consideration, there being a contract itself, so legality, certainty. So we looked at that in learning outcome 1. We looked at how contracts can be terminated as well and become void. We looked at remedies for breach of a contract. So what are the remedies available for businesses? Also, we looked at important case law in regards to that, why there's a need to have case law. I think if someone else is Swapna, are you on as well?
Yes, I'm here, but I'm traveling.
Hi. Oh, it's okay. I'm just giving you an overview of the 4 learning outcomes and then go through the assignment discussion. So remember, you have these learning outcomes are still available on Moodle for you as well individually.
Yes.
So we also looked at remedies for breach of a contract and case law in regards to that. And we looked at the importance of contract law, why we need contract law in everyday. We need it in everyday society, to be honest, where, you go into a restaurant and there's an offer there, and then you have paid, there's an acceptance when you give the order, and then you pay for it with consideration, which is monetary. So, in everyday life, there is a way that a contract is formed. And it is needed a lot in regards to, like you mentioned, in regards to Saman mentioning about employment law. Again, that is really important because, you employ people, you must have a contract in place. Are you breaching the contract if there's no contract in place? Are you breaching contract law?
Yes, of course. It has to be in terms of either written contract or, you have to tell them by word.
And what could be in that contract, Saman?
The statutories like the holiday pay, sick pay, and if any company wants to go more than that, they can add to these contracts, but they cannot go lower than what the government is asking.
It could add in its terms and conditions, if there's anything regarding wages, the holidays, things like that would be in there. We then went on to look at, in learning outcome 1, we looked at principles of agency. So we looked at the law of agency, the rights and duties of an agent, the agency relationship, including partnerships and case law. We then went on to look at the law of tort. What's tort? Anyone? Swapna, what is tort? Sorry. Anyone?
Is it the law which is not you, like, for example, I think you said if somebody doing a surgery in a hospital and something wrong happened to him, you expect that thing to be done properly. So
it's negligence, isn't it?
Negligence, yes.
Yeah. So you have, if you're a doctor, Saman, what do you have to a patient?
Responsibilities.
You have a responsibility, but you have a duty of care, don't you?
Duty of care, yeah.
You have that duty of care. to the individual that you will, you know, and you have that duty of care even if when you're in hospital as well, you know, as a doctor, you know, you have that duty of care to them, you know, and there are areas where, you know, if there is no duty of care, what happens?
Everything will be, you know, out of
Yeah, it'd be a
control.
breach, wouldn't it? It would be a breach that you're breaching your duty of care. So that was learning outcome 1 we looked at. In learning outcome 2, we looked at the understanding company and insolvency. So we looked at elements of, you know, how companies formed, you know, the financing of a company. What is a company? What are company directors? Types of different companies, private, limited, unlimited. We also looked at private and public companies. We went on to look at the consequences for incorporation. We looked at what is company law, why is it so important? Why must we follow Companies Act 2006? Why is it important for us to follow that? Why do you think it's so important for us to follow Companies Act?
Just to be fair to everybody and make sure everything is done correctly.
Okay, and why is it important that things are done correctly? That we are following the regulations of Companies Act. It's so important. We then went on to look at corporate governance and you know, the core values of that. We looked at various sources of company law, Companies Act, Insolvency Act, Companies Disqualification Act for directors. We looked at the requirements, formation, financing and administration of companies, advantages of forming a company. We then went on to look at company names in learning outcome 2, shareholders and share capital, directors' role, secretary's role, why it's so important. We went to look at articles of association. We looked at company directors, officers and shareholders and why they have a duty to you know, the individual, but why they have a role and responsibility, their general duties. And we then went on to look at learning outcome 3. So I'm going through these quite quickly so we've got an idea. Are you okay, Swapna? So we've gone through the next one is learning outcome 3, which was to understand the impact of criminal law on businesses and professional organization. Why do you think criminal law is a big thing within a business? When we look at criminal law, why is it a big element of a business? Do you think it happens within a business? Criminal activity and money laundering and things like that? Saman, do you think it happens within a business?
Yeah, I think this is the main source of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the largest elements of it, isn't it?
Yeah,
The
it
money
usually
laundering.
happens.
Yeah,
Usually
it
happens in
happens.
companies.
Yeah. And, you know, we looked at, in learning outcome 3, we looked at the legal principles, legislation, case law, and ethical codes. We also looked at ethical codes relating to professional organizations, the status of each law regulation, guidance. We looked at elements of malpractice, fraud, and bribery. We looked at defenses against malpractice for professional accountants, you know, because that does happen, you know, accountants are put in that position where they do that. And sometimes it's greed. Sometimes it's the fact that they, you know, it might be under duress, who knows? You know, elements and consequences of fraud. And it's the same, it's not just in the accountancy profession, it's the same in any profession. I know because I go through the law profession, I've known people in lawyers to take, you know, identify any sort of unethical practices where they've taken money as money laundering to try to hide it. So, you know, there are instances where it happens within any profession. elements and consequences of fraud. We looked at elements and consequences of money laundering and bribery. You all know what money laundering is. Saman?
Yeah.
Swapna, do you know what money laundering is? What is money laundering? Anyone? Sapna? Sorry, Swapna? I think she's on mute. Saman?
Yeah.
What is money laundering?
Money laundering is when sometimes you declare on is money that it came from illegal let's say jobs, or
it's like they say they wash it, don't they? They wash the dirty money.
Yeah, and it usually happens like in pubs and things like that, or nightclubs. So they bring
It happens
money.
quite a lot. They try to hide it, illegitimate money to come legitimate.
Yes.
Through the sources of maybe another business or through different sources. We also looked at national and international regulations because money laundering is big on national and international scale as well.
True.
It's not something that's just done nationally, it's done globally as well. We looked at reporting and other requirements for professional accountants in relation to money laundering, what you must do, consequences of failing to meet money laundering regulations, penalties for money laundering, and we looked at cyber use, computer misuse and cyber crime, so Computer Misuse Act 1990. We looked at the Offences and Penalties Act under the Computer Misuse Act, Cybercrime under Fraud Act 2006, and we looked at the penalties as well. So that was learning outcome 3. We then went on to look at learning outcome 4, which was the final learning outcome, and it was to understand areas of law affecting business and professional operations. We looked at the requirements of data protection, so why that's important. So things like, use of information in a business, the requirements of data protection legislation, Data Protection Act 2018, GDPR, impact of requirements on business. And if you don't comply with GDPR, we looked at the penalties for non-compliance. We also looked at intellectual property, so the different types of intellectual property, patents, copyrights, trademarks. Then we looked at how they are protected, protection of digital assets, remedies for unlawful use of intellectual property, and importance of intellectual property for business. We then went on to look at employment law, which is employed and non-employed legal status, legal consequences of employment law, key features of employment contract, termination, so you could be terminated unfairly, wrongfully, and constructive. What could be unfair dismissal? What can amount to someone getting rid of you on the basis of unfair dismissal?
Like I had a case where somebody, a lady become pregnant, and the business owner wanted to, replace her. So that it was like an unfair.
Yeah, just because she was pregnant.
Yes, just because.
It was unfair that they wanted to get rid of her because of a pregnancy.
Yeah.
So, unfair, wrongful dismissal. It could be on the age of maybe if you're disabled, or your ethnic origin, or your age as well, because there's been, wrongful, unfair dismissal on the basis of age as well. People get dismissed on, and it's sad, really.
Yeah.
It's because for me, I think it's quite difficult to kind of, if someone's been in a job for 20 years, and due to their age, you get someone younger who you pay less, some companies would dismiss them, which is very unfair. We looked at statutory redundancy, we looked at employment obligations and social security, and equal opportunities legislation. What could be an equal opportunities legislation? We've got someone else come on now as well. Irene, hi.
Hello. Good morning.
I'm just giving you a quick overview of the 4 learning outcomes, and then we'll go into the assignment discussion. Okay. So what is equal opportunities, Irene?
Equal opportunity has to do with the let's say laws, policies that gives that indicates that everyone should be treated equally. So regardless of age, sex, religion or sexual orientation, people should be
protected
treated,
characteristics, they're called within employment law. But the fact is, are they used in employment?
Well, nowadays, given nowadays, given all the litigations and all that's been going on, companies are more conscious, in ensuring they abide by the rules. Obviously, some do, in
Some
spite of
don't.
it. Though,
some still don't. There's companies out there that will still discriminate against you, and on the basis of a big one is gender. I mean, the fact that you're a woman. It's really important that kind of disparity is removed. But there's still companies out there that have this glass ceiling for women. If a woman wants to apply for a job and a man applies for it, they always employ the man. So there's always that glass ceiling for some companies. They always say that less women tend to go up because of this glass ceiling. And I don't know if you agree with me or not, but there is the element of gender discrimination. There's element of disability, age. These kind of elements need to be looked at when you're looking at employment law, especially in a business. You need to, like you said, Irene, some businesses deal with it properly and some don't. Some still discriminate. And, it may be that you've worked in an organization where you've kind of, felt that kind of, that equal opportunities is not being dealt with properly. And it does happen. I mean, I've worked in the education sector for now 20 years now, and I've seen a lot of it. So, it does happen. So we've looked at the learning outcome 1, 2, and 3 for law of accounting, and we've looked at quickly, briefly, because each learning outcome is on Moodle, and it's recorded lecture as well. So now we're going to go through the assignment discussion. Okay, has anyone got any questions before we carry on with the assignment discussion?
No, thank you.
No. Irene, Swapna?
No, thank you.
Okay. So the assignment discussion session is around the 4 learning outcomes that we've just gone through. So the aim of the module is to develop your understanding of how English law impacts on business organizations and professional accountancy practice. Do you think it has a huge impact on accountancy practices?
Yes, I think.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Why do you think, Saman? Why do you think it has a big impact on the accountancy?
Because
profession?
accountants deal with different businesses, and they probably maybe the first source of information for their clients. So sometimes these legal questions, even that it got to be asked by the lawyer, but it tends to come to the accountant first, and then so the accountant needs to know these things to, transfer it to the customer.
So do you think, Irene, do you think all accountancy firms follow the professional, the rules and regulations of the profession?
Well, it's required, but again, like every other organizations around us, not all accountancy firms abide 100%. Therefore, you every now and then will see in the papers that even the big fours having litigations, they're being fined for one thing or the other,
So there are people out there that sway away from it. So the learning outcomes we've just quickly summarized is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So first one is understand the elements of law affecting commercial practice. Second, we looked at understanding company and insolvency law. Learning outcome 3, we looked at understanding the impact of criminal law on business and professional organizations. And learning outcome 4, understand areas of law affecting business and professional operations. So what information needs to go onto the assignment? So when you're doing the assignment, the front cover needs to have your name on, your registration number, and in this case, this is just an example. It should have your unit level, so it should have unit 4 law of accounting on it. Why do you think it's important to have that detail on it?
So it doesn't get mixed up with somebody else's work.
Yeah. Yeah, so you need to make sure that you have got this information on it, and you have got the information so that the assessor who's marking it is able to identify that it's your work. So this is at the start of it, okay? Assignment declaration. Now you need to sign an assignment declaration. The importance of this is to identify that you've read everything, you've read all the guidance, and you've looked at the issues that the work you're submitting is your work. You know, it's your own work, and that you, if you are using references and sources, that you have referenced them properly using Harvard system, which we'll go through a little bit later. So there's no forms of collusion, there's no form of plagiarism. Why do you think that's so important when we look at plagiarism and collusion and cheating? Why do you think that's so important?
I think that's, again, that's part of the lessons we've learned, isn't it? Whereby people's work needs to be people's work. You can't take other people's work and claim as yours. That's against the law. I've forgotten the topic or the section where we learned this now. But yeah.
But also, if you think about it logically, if you're looking back at the law of accountancy, learning outcomes we've gone through, you're not following the policies and regulations, are you? If you think about it, when you're signing this, you're saying this is your work, and then all of a sudden we get the work and it comes up as AI. You know, you're signing, you're declaring your life away. Is that a contract? It's literally a contract, isn't it? To say that you have not submitted, you have the work that you have submitted is your own, but then when it comes to it, we have a look. So you need to you need to make sure that you are following the policy, because you are signing this document to say that, you know, I understand and I'm aware of the policy, and I'm aware of the academic penalties, you know, that are in regards to that. So you need to make sure that you reference all your work if you're taking, and paraphrase things. Also, you know, you can paraphrase things into your own words. So you will sign a declaration, okay, and that would identify that. And again, it looks at plagiarism and collusion. Like you said, Irene, students must submit and complete their own work. Plagiarism is presenting the thoughts, ideas of another person. So you are taking someone else's work. Collusion is copying someone else's work. So you need to make sure that you are following the policy on academic misconduct policy, which is available on Moodle for you. I just have a read of it. Okay, so and it's really, really important that you are referencing all your work, and I will reiterate this throughout this session, that referencing is really important. So at the start of the assignment, table of contents, where you've done each part. So that's really important that you have a table of contents. Font size 12, 1.5 line spacing, page numbers to be inserted. So when you have a contents page, you've got page numbers there that you can refer to where you've done the work. An introduction. Why is it so important to have an introduction at the start of every introduction and conclusion at the start of every assignment? Saman, why is it so important to have an introduction?
Yeah, so the person who reads this assignment knows what subject are you talking about and what point in this assignment you are covering.
Yeah, make sure you also, you know, have an introduction that makes it clear that what you're covering and what part of it you're covering and why you're introducing the area. Make sure you put all the assessment criteria in headings, which I'm going to go through a little bit more with you so you've got a better idea. And make sure you avoid using bullet points. Stick to it being an academic piece of work so it flows well. Harvard referencing system. Are you all okay with using the Harvard referencing system?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is sources on Moodle available for you that explain Harvard referencing system. And as we're going through, I'll explain it a little bit more to you as well. There's also this thing called Neil's Toolbox, and that's towards the end. And that will help you put your references, you know, the dots and commas in the right place. So what you do, you will go onto Neil's toolbox, and at the end, just remind me and I'll show you it. And there's other websites on at the end, and you need to make sure you're referencing all your work. Avoid using things like Wikipedia, because people add to that. It's not an authentic, a credible source. You need academic sources as well, because you need to be learning to do, learning to work at an academic level at this stage. Okay, so there's 2 tasks in this. Okay, so task 1 of 2. The first one, you've got a scenario which I'm going to go through. So you are working in an accountancy firm as a junior assistant in a department dealing with small and medium-sized businesses. As part of your training, you have been asked to do an initial review of the following cases for the partner. Picking out the issues and discussing possible solutions and outcomes. You will need to write a report to the partner based on each case, citing relevant case law, and your report should include all legal points, discuss issues of law, and give an opinion relating to the scenario where appropriate. So task 1, and that covers learning outcome 1, AC 2.1, 2.2, and 2D1. Now, 2D1 is if you want to do the extension activity. Okay, so that is up to you if you want to do that. If you want to do the, so I'll just explain it before we further on. If you want to do the past activities, you do all the AC 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, whatever it is, okay? And then you would complete all the past ones. If you wanted to do the merit, you would have to do the merit ones and the past ones. And if you wanted to have a distinction, you'd have to complete the merit, past, merit, and distinction ones. Do you understand that? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so task 1 of 2. So client Jodie Hart, who has started a new training business, wants advice on a number of issues relating to a business. You must deal with each of the below, which we're going to go through. Jodie is trying to decide whether to become a limited company, but does not know what this would involve. So your report must include analysing the requirements of company law for the formation, financing, and administration of companies. So when you're doing this part of the assignment, okay, you need to make sure this is a heading. Yes, everyone?
Yes.
Yeah, this is a heading, and then you need to make sure you do not change any of the wording, because the command wording needs to stay the same, which is analyze. So do not change it to what you think it should be. Leave it as it is, okay? Put that as a heading and then write the answer under that heading.
Okay.
Is that okay? Do you understand that?
Yes, now it's very clear.
Yes. Because you know why? I think some people, what they do is they change everything, and I might be able to show you an example of an assignment which they've done it like this, and this is easier. So then we know you've covered assessment criteria 2.1. So leave all that in, put it in like that, and then do it. Is that okay, Irene and Swapna? Do you understand that? Irene's probably gone.
I'm here. Yes.
Yeah, oh, you're here. Swapna's gone.
I was coughing before. Yeah. That's why I had to switch my volume. Yeah.
But is this okay? So you just copy and paste that into your assignment and then write under it the answer?
Yeah.
So that's one part of it, yeah? Then the second part of the assignment is to analyse the role, and all this is in learning outcome 2. It tells you at the top what learning outcome it covers. Analyse the role and responsibility of company directors, officers, and shareholders. So where you would find this answer, and I've gone through it, made it quite easy for you to identify. So the first one, 2.1. So if you do it like I have as a heading and then write under it, here we have to cover the requirements of a company formation as per Company Act 2006 and talk about how is a company formed, limited, referring to the scenario. So you'd look at Jodie's scenario, advantages and disadvantages. You'd look at administration of companies, including board meetings, recording, filing of companies' confirmation statement. And this is looking at learning outcome 2, slides 11 till 21. And that would answer your question. That's where you would find it. Does everyone understand?
Yes, thank you.
So it's made it quite clear. You can put more into it yourself, but this would be answering the question in regards to learning outcome 2, slides 11 to 21. So that's the first part. The second part of the question is to analyse the role and responsibilities of company directors, officers and shareholders. And that's AC 2.2. Now you would have to put that as a heading, okay? Don't change anything. So you're analysing the role, responsibility, company directors, officers and shareholders, not just company directors, okay? So here we need to cover the roles and responsibilities of the company directors, officers, secretary, and talk about the duties of each one, okay? So role and responsibilities of them, okay? You need to refer to learning outcome 2 here, slides 22 to 26. If you go to slides 22 to 26, it will give you the answer for that, okay? But you need to have your additional reading as well, your own reading as well, which will help you. Do not use bullet points, okay? That's not an academic piece of work. It needs to flow. Do you understand? Because you've got your heading, you just need to write about it under your heading. Do you understand that? Yeah? You can also refer to Companies House website for the role of directors on there. So the link is there for you to go on it. And it's a really good link. It looks at the duties of company directors. Right, for the same task, if you want to gain a distinction, so if you want to, you have to do the pass, merit and the distinction ones. If you want to gain a distinction, you need to analyse aspects of capital maintenance. So this is your heading here. Can you see that one there? That is your heading, to gain a distinction. Now, this is additional stuff. So if you want to do it, it's up to you.
Sorry, just one question.
Yeah.
You know, on the heading, we also have to put the 2D1, also that one.
Yeah, AC 2.1 or 1.2 or whichever one it is.
Okay, so that's also part of the heading.
Yeah, that would just identify that you have done them areas, okay? I don't know what's gone on here, so let's stop sharing. Right, let me go back to share this again. Right, okay, so let's see if I can go. Let's just see if I can go back onto this because this computer is just frozen. Let's have a look. Just give me 1 minute. So I might just have to do it like that. So is that okay if I do? Can you see this one? Let's just have a look. Just 1 minute. It's sharing something. I don't know what it's sharing now.
Yes.
Can you see the assignment discussion? Yeah.
Yes. Now we can see the assignment discussion.
Yeah. Let's have a look. We're on page. Sorry. Page 14. Okay. So can you see page 14? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So here you need to answer the distinction one. Now, this is an extension activity if you want to do it. And you need to talk about share capital of a limited company, which is as regard, and you need to be looking at learning outcome 2, presentation slides 35 to 43. So this will answer this analyze aspects of capital maintenance. And that's a distinction area if you want to do that. You need to talk about the procedure for private companies and covering how rules of maintenance of capital exist in order to prevent a company reducing its capital by returning to its members. You need to talk about the reduction of capital under section 641 of the Companies Act 2006. And you need to talk about reduce or cancel liabilities on partly paid shares. For example, the company gives up any claim for the money owing or return capital in excess of the company's need, and then cancel the paid up capital that is no longer represented by the assets. So this is all if you want to do the distinction area for it. So it's to analyze aspects of capital maintenance. If you don't want to do the distinction one, you will stick to doing the past ones, okay? Now, part of task 1, the next part is B, okay? And that is learning outcome 1, AC 1.1, 1.2, 1M1 and 1D1. So this is towards the same scenario. So on 11th of August, Jodie asked her brother John, who was not part of business but helping out, to approach a small business in the town where they lived that was closing down. John was to tell them that Jodie was interested in buying their office furniture and equipment for £1,000, but needed to collect it and move it to her own office premises by the 25th of August. The owner, Harry Parker, says he will think about it. Okay, on 14th of August, Harry sees John in a local coffee shop and says that he would like to sell the furniture and equipment, but he won't be able to part with it until the 31st of August when he can deliver to Jodie's office. John says this will be fine. Jodie then sends Harry an email saying she has changed her mind as her uncle has given her some of his office furniture and equipment, and Harry writes back saying that they have a contract and that he will be delivering everything on the 31st and will expect payment. Now, using that scenario, write a section of the report about the elements of Jodie's elements of contract and agency relationship to advise Jodie. So in the report, you must include, again, analyze the elements and nature of contractual agreements. So that would be your heading, okay? You would then need to, for this answer, you would need to refer to presentation slides of learning outcome 9 to 16, okay? So then the second part, you need to explain the principles of agency and their impact on practice, AC 1.2, and you need to refer to presentation slides of learning outcome 1, 17 to 22 pages. So are you okay with that so far? Does everyone understand? So these are the past ones that you have to do for part B.
Sorry, just my monitor only shows page 14. Is it what's supposed to be?
Oh, is yours shows in page 14?
Yes.
What, can you see it now?
15 now.
Now 16, yeah?
Now 16, yes.
Yes. So you need to do, you need to analyze the elements and nature of contractual agreements, AC 1.1. And here, these are the past elements. So you need to be referring here to can you still see it now or no, Summer?
No, it just says your name on the
It's just, yeah, it's gone now.
Let me just go, what about now?
No, there's nothing.
Just 1 minute. What about now?
no.
No.
You can't see anything. Oh, that's really weird. Oh, can you see it now?
No.
It says still loading. Okay. I don't know what's wrong with this.
Yeah, now it's coming.
Excellent, thank you. So these are the parts that you need to do for part B. And you need to analyze the elements and nature of contractual agreements. You need to explain the principles. So these are for the elements of part B. If you want to get the merit one, you need to also look.
Can you go back to page 16, please? Yes, thank you. Yeah.
So these are where you, so below this is all available on Moodle for you, okay? So below each one, you've got where the answer is for you to look at. So the first part of it is to refer to presentation slides, learning outcome 9, page 9 to 16. For the second one, the principles of agency, you refer to presentation slides, learning outcome 1, 17 to 22. And this is where you'd get the answers from. Do not change the command words as we've said, okay? So that's for the past one. To gain a merit, you also need to, if you want to gain a merit, or if you just want to pass, you just do the past ones. This is to gain the merit in the same part, part B, you need to look at assessing the validity of a contract. That's 1M1, and you need to put it as 1M1. So you need to just copy and paste what the assignment is asking you as that. And then you need to refer to the presentation slides, learning outcome 1, 28 to 30. Okay? Is that okay for everyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. Then to gain a distinction for part B, you need to look at evaluating the implications of an agency relationship for the principal and the agent. and you look at the principal relationship, and you would be referring to learning outcome 1 again, slides 30 to 32. When you're looking at each part of this, part B, you need to be referring to Jodie and her scenario. So it would be her brother and John, but you need to be writing around the law as well. So Jodie is the principal buyer, John is the agent acting on behalf of her sister, and then Harry is the seller. So you need to be referring to that for part B, okay? So learning outcome 4. Now in this part C, so this is all task 1. Part C, you need to be looking at learning outcome 4 to cover this. AC 4.1, 4.2, and 4M1. So Jodie is concerned about information and intellectual property in business. She keeps personal details of trainees, and she has a large amount of training material that has been produced by her and her employees. She wants advice on the laws relating to data protection and intellectual property. So for part C, for the past, you need to analyze the requirements of data protection, 4.1. Here you need to refer to learning outcome 4 and the presentation slides for page 4 to 13 to answer that part of it. You need to make sure these are headings, the ones in red that I've put. And then the second part of that report, you need to look at 4.2, which is to explain how intellectual property can be protected. And you would refer to learning outcome 4, slides 14 to 25. You also need to contextualize the answer in relation to Jodie's company. As I've mentioned, you know, you need to be looking at the training material covered by copyright, and there's also a link there on intellectual property. But a lot of it is in your slides that you could look at and then expand. So there's 2 parts for the past one, 4.1, 4.2, okay? Do you all understand that and where to find them?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. To gain a merit for part C, you also need to assess the importance of intellectual property rights to a business, and that's 4M1. Here, you would be broadly looking at copyrights, trademarks, patents, and trade secrets. Valuing intellectual property methodology. So there are 3 methods of valuing intellectual property: cost-based, market-based, and income-based. Cost-based valuation, market-based valuation, and income-based valuation, what each one is. So you need to be looking at that in learning outcome 4 as well, okay, to get the answer. So this is the last part, which is D. So within learning task 1, you have A, B, C, and D, okay? So within learning outcome 1, AC 1.1, you will also be looking at learning outcome 4, which is AC 4.3. So you need to be looking at both learning outcomes for this, for D. One of Jodie's employees caused a fire at a training event by using electrical equipment that has not properly checked. Several people suffered minor injuries. They are trying to sue Jodie for compensation. Jodie immediately dismisses the employee, use the scenario to discuss the law of tort and remedies available, and discuss the employment law relating to employment contracts and termination. You must, number 1, so for this part, explain the law of tort and remedies, and that will be learning outcome 1, AC 1.3. Here you need to refer to learning outcome 1, presentation slides 23 to 27. So each time you're doing the heading, you need to write the answer under the heading. The second part of the report on D for pass is assess the impact of legislation relating to employment, and that's learning outcome 1, presentation slides 26 to 41. Is everyone okay for that?
Yeah. So
that covers part D. So there's no merit or distinction for part D. Okay? So that's covered task 1, sorry. The next bit is task 2 of 2. Task 2, Day Loan Limited, a small loans company, are insolvent. They won a number of assets which are subject to fixed and floating charges and owe a large amount of corporation tax. They are also being investigated for money laundering and other offences, including poor lending practices, bribing a government official, and gaining unauthorised access to competitors' computers in order to access their clients. They have failed to operate in accordance with legislation and guidelines on responsible lending, and they want advice on insolvency and possible criminal charges and penalties. So here you would be looking at learning outcome 2, AC 2.3, learning outcome 3, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4. Now your report should include, firstly, explain the process of insolvency for business organizations. And that's learning outcome 2, slides 27 to 32. Secondly, you need to analyze the relationship between legal principles, legislation, case law, and ethical codes. And I do realize sometimes when I've marked these assignments, people haven't covered everything on this question. So you need to make sure you're looking at legal principles, legislation, case law, and ethical codes. And here you need to refer to learning outcome 3, presentation slides 4 to 16. Okay. Then you need to look at explaining the consequences of malpractice, fraud, and bribery in business organizations. So it's actually you need to look at malpractice, fraud, and bribery, not just fraud and bribery, okay? And here you would refer to learning outcome 3, presentation slides 17 to 24. Then you need to look at the fourth bit of it, explain the offences of money laundering, AC 3.3, and that would be referring to the learning outcome 3, presentation slides 25 to 30. And then the final one for the past one, explain offences and penalties relating to computer misuse and cybercrime. And it's AC 3.4, so you refer to learning outcome presentation slides 31 to 42. Now, to gain a merit for this part of it, which is task 2, your report must also include advising on the insolvency process for a given situation, and that's AC 2.1. Refer to learning outcome 2, presentation slides 33 to 34 for this. Bankruptcy, debt relief order, individual voluntary arrangement, insolvency help, so debt advice, and restructuring debt. In both the tasks, so task 1 and task 2, you need to show that you have knowledge and understanding of the subject area. You need to provide references and relevant case law legislation where appropriate, and be able to support your answer with wider reading. Are you all okay with task 1 and task 2? Task 1 is quite big, has quite a lot, A, B, C, and D, and task 2 is not as big as task 1. Is that okay? So it's up to you whether you want to do the extension activities, which is if you want to gain a merit or distinction. It's up to you whether you want to stick to the past ones. Any questions?
Just one question, sorry. If we cover the distinction in, let's say, one part and we don't do the distinction requirement.
So you've got to do it in all the parts.
So it has to be on all parts.
Yes, it has to be on all the parts to gain the distinction. If you do distinction on one part and do all the merits, you will only gain a merit.
Yeah, okay.
So you need to make sure you do all the pass to get the pass ones. So the 1.1s, the 1.2s, you need to make sure you do all the, where it says merit and distinction, if you do them, you need to make sure you do all of them to gain a distinction.
Okay.
Okay. Referencing, you need to cite a range of case law, academic sources, and the referencing system we use is the Harvard referencing system, and that must be included at the end of your work. Again, make sure at the end of your work you have a conclusion. Your conclusion can be 3-4 lines. It doesn't have to be a huge conclusion. And then a reference list and bibliography. Summary. So make sure you start with an introduction. So this is just some guidance for you. Make sure you start with an introduction, conclusion. Make sure you are using Harvard referencing for referencing. So you can refer to online sites such as Neil's Toolbox. You just put that in Google and it'll come up. If you are using diagrams, please make sure you reference them accordingly. Make sure you have a bibliography and it is in alphabetical order at the end. Try to use more examples when explaining certain concepts. For example, when you're looking at theory or case law. Make sure, and I've said this to you before, make sure you have your assessment criteria as the heading. So like, you know, the full heading that you should have, maybe it says analyze the elements and nature of contractual agreements, AC 1.1, that is a heading and you would write under that. And make sure you are referring to the indicative content and the word count. Give proper headings and make it look presentable and professional. Follow the numbering on the assignment presentation as against the assignment brief. So if it's saying 1.1, make sure you are following that. Ensure at least 12 to 15 references. References, again, Harvard referencing. Keep a word count. So you've got 10% leeway either way and 20% tolerance limit, which is, it should be below 20% your plagiarism. Your task 1 needs to be 2,500 words, okay? And then task 2 needs to be 1,500 words. Okay, so you need to make sure you are, you know, for each task, you are limiting your words. Okay, so you're looking at, for task 1, 2,500 words, and task 2, 1,500 words.
So, sorry, one question. What's the maximum we can go if we want to go more than 2,000?
I think it's 10% you only get.
10%.
You only get 10% over.
Okay.
Yeah. Useful tips. So these are some command words. Focus on the task and the command word. Like I said, do not change the command words. Explain, assess, compare. Stick to the command words as they are. Harvard referencing. So you need to do in-text Harvard referencing. So if you write something and you're referencing in your assignment, you need to put the author's name and the year. Okay, so that's in the assignment. When you are doing at the end, it needs to be the full citation. And you could use Neil's toolbox for that to reference using Harvard system or things like Cite Me and things like that. Proper headings and subheadings. Word limit 10% over, and plagiarism needs to be below 20%. You need to make sure you are not copying and pasting work, as it is plagiarism and would lead to academic misconduct. Make sure you reference all your sources. So if you are using UK Varsity slides, then the referencing will be business environment, or in your case, law of accounting 2024, learning outcome 2 2024. So you would put that in, okay? Make sure you check your grammar and you are using UK English rather than using, you know, American style English, because people still do that. Refer to ebooks and journals on the Moodle for this unit, and any questions, please email learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. Submission of the assignment to be done on learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk, and submission is 2 weeks after the completion of the unit, so you can get on with it. If you need extra time, you need to email them and say you need extra time. If you have any issues around that, email me. What I do want to show you is, I'll get rid of this, and I do want to show you something on
Shastia,
yes.
oh, sorry, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Shastia, you told me something about, you know, the Harvard referencing, you know, tool. What is that? Neil tool.
It's Harvard. It's called Neil's Toolbox. Let me just show you something now. This assignment is a bit slow, so stop sharing. So if you go on to something called Neil's Toolbox, okay? And on Neil's Toolbox, let me just see if I can get onto my slides now.
Can you just spell me for that?
Yes, N-E-I-L, Neil's, and then Toolbox. Toolbox, T-O-O-L.
Yes,
Toolbox.
Yeah.
And it's got Harvard reference. Yes. And it's really, really easy, Swap, and it's really good app to use. It'll show you how to reference books. It shows you how to reference internet sources, and it shows you how to reference journals, everything, or part of a book.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
So I don't know what's going on with my computer at the moment. So can you see anything there?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you go on to Moodle, you've got the assignment brief on there as well, okay? So you need to be referring to the assignment brief on Moodle as well, okay? So if you have any issues, just email LearnerWork. Have you got any questions around the assignment?
Yeah, is it the deadline 2 weeks after today?
Yes, but if you need extra time, you just need to email them and say you need extra time, okay? So, try and do what you can. If you need to send me anything, I will have a look at varsity.co.uk and I'll have a look at it for you. You know, if you prefer to email me as well, just before you submit the assignment.
Oh, can you do that, Shazia?
If you have if you want to do it as I've told you to do it now, and then email me if you have any questions, or if you just want me to have a look, if you're on the right lines, or if you're going, you know, the structure and things like this, I will have a look at it for you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's fine. So
Yeah.
it's Shazia at
Shazia
UK.
at ukvarsity.co.uk.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, but if you stick to the structure I've gone through, if you want to do all the pass ones, you have to do all the pass ones to get a pass. You have to do all the merit ones to get a merit. Sorry, you have to, if you do the pass and merit ones, that will give you a merit. If you do pass, merit and distinction ones, you will get the distinction. You can't just do one, you have to do them all to get the marks you want to get.
Is there
Because
any
some people only do the pass ones because they just want to pass. But some people do the extension activities if they can. But make sure it's clear that it's a heading that you've done it.
If you want to do the distinction, can we go over the limit of the words, or no? You have to
No, you can't. No,
that's the hard
it's
bit.
only 10%.
Okay.
I mean, the best thing you could do is try to email on Learner Work and ask them if how much more you could go over. Someone.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, ask them, you know, is it maximum that it's just 4,000, or can we go so much over? So ask them.
Yeah, sure. Especially if we want to do the distinction or
Yes, yeah, if you want to do the distinction one, yes, it's true. Have you got any questions, Saman, Irene, Swapna?
No, thank you. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
No,
I hope you
no, thank
understand
you.
everything.
Thank you,
Thank
Shazia.
you. And please email me if you have any issues, okay? Because I will be marking it. So I will need to know how you're getting on as well.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
Shazia, can I
Okay.
ask you
Yes.
something? You know, are you the same person will do our another modules?
I don't know. I don't know.
Uh,
Which other module?
It means like, you know, I don't know which will be my next one. But if we want, can we request, you know, can we attend the Shazia's
You can
class?
ask them. You can
Okay.
ask them. I don't know whether I'll be doing it or not.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, Swapna. So if you have any issues, please email me, Irene, Swapna, or Salmon, and I will get back to you. And do you know what? In the email, please make sure you put a phone number so I can ring you, because I prefer talking to someone via
I
phone.
also prefer that.
Yes, I prefer that
thank
because
you.
I prefer I can talk to you and explain things to you in more details.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Irene,
you.
are you okay?
Yes,
Excellent.
I'll work on it and then
Okay,
get back to
excellent.
you. Yeah,
Excellent. Thank you, Irene. And Saman, good luck with getting
Thank
the
you.
assignment done. And have a
Thank
nice
you, sir.
weekend, everyone, okay?
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.